This is the CNC Router Tips Podcast, episode 50.
I don't want to see their spindle turning. I know what it does. I want to know how. How did you get it to turn? What steps did you need to go through? And that's sort of where I started from. I had to go through and learn from scratch.
This is the CNC Router Tips Podcast, a show which answers one question from you, the listener, about CNC router tables, CNC software, hardware, web hosting, and business. I'll help you get started in your CNC hobby or business and help you cut through the confusion.
Today's episode is sponsored by themakersguide.com. The Maker's Guide. Useful tools for makers.
Hello, everyone. I'm bill-griggs, and I am here today with a friend of mine that I've known for a few years over the internet, just virtually, who has done some really amazing things with YouTube and his CNC router. And I would like you to welcome Peter Passuello from Greymouth, New Zealand. How are you tonight?
Thanks, man. Yeah, good. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah,
really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. You have the honor of being the person from the furthest south we've ever had, and the furthest away, as a matter of fact, as a guest on the CNC Router Tips podcast. So, feel honored.
I am. And unless somebody else gets ones in Antarctica, we should be pretty safe.
Yeah. So, I think that some of the things that you've been doing are really fantastic, and I know that our audience would like to hear about this. And it's really nice to me to have you as a guest, as this is our 50th episode, and I like to celebrate things like that. And, I'm very happy that I have an interview with a person who has a story to tell, because I think those are the best episodes in the CNC Router Tips so far. And you have a great story to tell. But I want to go back a little bit before we get going, and tell me about what you were doing when you first heard about CNC.
I sort of came across it on the internet, just as the internet was sort of really starting, I suppose. And I came across a picture of one, and it was a little MDF machine, and had probably an old 286 PC running it, and I thought that looked really good. Mm-hmm. And I sort of filed that away, thinking, I'd really like to have a go at that one day, but no way I could do that. And years later, I found myself building my own, much to my surprise. Mm-hmm.
Now, the average person doesn't just build their own CNC. There's usually some hobby or other interest that is related to this. And what was that in your case?
Just general woodworking. Nothing really significant in that way. I just like trying things that are different. Mm-hmm. Give it a go. If I like it, I'll keep doing it. And when it stops being fun, I'll stop. And I'll find something else more interesting to do.
How did you get started? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
This hasn't stopped being fun yet.
Ah, okay. How did you get started in woodworking?
My father was a woodworker, and he taught me to make things, myself and my brothers. And, I've just sort of done that over the years. Wood, a little bit of wood turning as well, a little bit of metal work, just sort of all these different sort of skills that he's taught me over the years.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, your basic skill set is pretty large, but you don't come from a woodworking or industry background. You're in telecommunications?
Yeah, that's right. I'm actually a technician in the telecommunications industry. So yeah, woodworking is a hobby, as it is, I'm sure, for most people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I came at woodworking kind of backwards. For me, I started out with the CNC router, because I wanted to make model airplanes. And then after I got that figured out, I discovered that I really wanted to do some woodworking in addition to that. So, it's just kind of strange the way things work. I don't know how that worked for you.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of people seem to be into it for the model. You know, they want to make model planes and things, just as you were. I've seen that commented quite a bit. For me, it was, I wonder if I can make this. I wonder if I can get this to move. And in actual fact, my very first build was really basic. It only had 2 axes. I ended up bolting it down to the drill press and just wrote the word hello on it, just seeing could I make the table move. I like trying things, if it just for the fun of it, basically.
Mm-hmm. So describe it a little more. What kind of materials did you use to make it?
Well, the first one was made out of steel, 1-inch square box section steel with skateboard bearings. I originally saw a picture of a John Kleinbauer machine. I think it might have been the Brute.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know, he actually made a lot of machines.
Yeah.
And I just saw the picture there, and I thought, oh, that looks simple enough. I'll put bearings on it rather than the plastic sliders he had, and just sort of see what I come up with. So it was just virtually just an XY table, really, just built from steel and skateboard bearings.
Yeah, my first CNC machine was also a John Kleinbauer design called the Routezilla. That one was MDF and gas pipe along with the roller skate bearings. Kleinbauer was and is still quite prolific in his design work. For those of our listeners who've never heard of him before, you can go to crankorgan.com, I believe is his website, and check out some of the designs that he has that are made out of hardware store items, that are commonly available. So you built the Brute, okay, and how long did that take you?
Oh, probably about 3 weeks, something like that. I just did it in my spare time after work, and just put it together and had to play with it. It had about a cutting area of about 8 inches square,
mm-hmm.
and it taught me a lot. I certainly learnt a lot about it, and it was a good stepping stone in that I learned what I wanted, what I didn't want, and sort of use that as a base to move on to my next machine.
Mm-hmm. Where were you finding information in the early days? Because, it sounds like we started roughly about the same time looking into this. And I recall there being very little at all on the internet that had information about building the CNC, maybe hobby CNC and
I honestly can't remember there, Bill. It would have been off the internet. Certainly, Greymouth is actually a very small town. It's about 14,000 people. Mm-hmm. It's the biggest town on the west coast of the South Island. But, it's very small compared to, a place like where you live, New York. Mm-hmm. You probably find New York's probably got more people in it than New Zealand's got altogether. Okay. There was nobody in those days to go and see what they were building. So I relied on the internet to find the information. There's nothing in books either. Mm-hmm. Just picking up bits and pieces here, trying to find what software you needed. Everything, trying to get everything together, try and make it work. Even just getting drivers and stepper motors and things salvaged from printers and just cobbling it together, basically.
Mm-hmm. What was the biggest challenge? I know it's not easy to get parts in New Zealand. Was that a major concern? You'd never. Well, we're a metric country. A lot of the plans you buy were imperial. Mm-hmm. Not that's a major stepping stone or obstacle, I should say. But stepper motor drivers were very hard to come by, and in the end, on my next machine, I actually had brought a kit of 3 stepper motors and drivers to run it, having exhausted every other way of finding stepper motor drivers I could. And that's sort of also where you learn
the amount of money I spent trying to save money was ridiculous. Sometimes you're just better off biting the bullet and buy what you actually need the first time and stop shagging about on that particular on that one there. And the stepper motors and drivers are a classic example. Just spend all your money there if you're going to spend it. You can always upgrade your machine, put a piece of steel here, a bit of wood there, or whatever. But once you've got that stepper motor and driver investment there, that's a big investment for the machine. And you really want to get something decent for those.
After you got the brute together and used it for a while, what, if anything, did you decide to do after that?
Well, the first thing, of course, is it wasn't big enough. Like I said, I only had an 8-inch square table, and it was slow. Not that matters on a small table because you're not moving anywhere any great distance. But I decided I wanted something bigger, and the next machine I decided I'd build would be 2 foot by 3 foot table area, because that's basically all I've really got room for in my workshop. And so I started looking around for plans for my next machine.
And I know the answer, but my listeners may not. So what did you build next?
Right, so the next one was, and you'll have to forgive my pronouncement of it. It's Solvestia or something along those lines. Yeah, I also don't know how you pronounce that, but I'm familiar with the design. Yeah, it was made out of wood, 4x2, 3/4-inch timber. It wasn't plywood or anything of that nature. It was a dual drive machine, though thinking that I knew better, I only single drive it, which was a mistake.
So you only had a little machine. You only had one stepper motor to control the y-axis, or
the y-axis
to move the gantry.
Which was a mistake because that just encourages racking on a machine that runs on pipe and skateboard bearings. You to single drive something, I think you really need a really rigid machine with proper linear rails. But again, it's a learning exercise. Like I said, I thought I knew better. The future would tell me I didn't. And that's all part of the learning experience as well. Sometimes you just got to try things yourself and fail to gain that experience so that next time you don't make that same mistake.
Now, what was your family thinking when you went off the deep end into the CNC thing?
Oh, not a problem. It's just a hobby. Realistically, it didn't cost that much to build. When you're building something out of wood and skateboard bearings and things, it's really only the electronics that cost the arm and leg. But very supportive and just make things for them. So,
well, I about this time was working on the Routzilla, and I ended up using that to build my next machine. And I know that that's a common way that things happen. Was that the case with you, or
Yes, I used the new machine. I didn't use the small one, the original brute, but the next machine I used to build my Joes when I moved on to that one. Yeah.
So you have a Joe's CNC machine now.
That's correct. Yeah, I was hunting around for the next machine, and I saw basically the same as you. Really, I saw Joe starting to post on the CNC Zone his new design for the hybrid, as it became the 4x4 hybrid, and I thought that looked really good, and more importantly, it looked really simple to build. No more messing around with skateboard bearings. Those V bearings looked really, really good. And I sort of kept watching his build and thinking, this looks like the machine to build, nice and simple.
Yeah, I remember when it came out, I was in the process of building my own design machine, and when I saw just how far along he was in the build, I made the decision to stop my build and to switch over to his. There was a bit of a time lag between when he first showed the design and when it was actually available. But I took the plunge along with, quite a few other people. It was $100 investment for the plans, which was, not cheap. I don't know what that would be in Australian dollars, but it was considerable at the time.
No, neither would I. But in New Zealand dollars, it's around about
New Zealand
100, about 130ish, something like that. It's about 70 cents at the moment. I'm not sure what it was in those days, but it would have been the same. And you're right, it was a lot of money. But looking back on it, it was the best money I ever spent in the CNC game. My previous build had taught me the value of actually having plans to build something. And having got Joe's plans, I could see, because I live in New Zealand, I couldn't get the parts I needed. I couldn't get the aluminium extrusion I needed for the X and Y. I couldn't get the V-bearings, or at least I couldn't afford the V-bearings. So in the end, I actually made my own. You'll probably remember that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was pretty ingenious. Describe, if you would, take a minute to describe that.
Well, basically all I did is I brought R6 bearings, which have the same 3/8 inner diameter as the proper V bearings, and on the lathe I machined up metal shells that would take 2 of these bearings, and I machined them up to be basically the same dimensions as the original bearings had I gone out and brought them. Mine were a little bit deeper, but that didn't make any difference. It just meant I just had to pack them less than other people. And to this, well, actually only just a few months ago when I replaced the Y carriages on my machine, they were still using those homemade bearings that I actually had put on my machine. Up until then, they just lasted really well, and it's only the fact that I'm trying to build something that other people can build that I really forced me to take them off. There was just nothing wrong with them.
Yeah, I remember when you did it, I said, what in the world is he doing? And then you explained what they would have cost to ship a package of bearings out to New Zealand, and they became really simple. You do what you've got to do. And it worked great, obviously, through all these years. So that was pretty innovative.
Sort of years later, well, probably a couple of years later, I actually brought proper V-bearings. I thought, I must replace those homemade ones, and I never did. I ended up selling them because I thought, there's nothing wrong with my homemade V-bearings. They're working fine. Why replace them?
Yeah. Just for our listeners, if you want to hear more about Joe's CNC machines, etc., you can listen to episode 24 of the CNC Router Tips Podcast at cncroutertips.com/24. That's an interview with Joe Cantrill, the mastermind behind the Joe's CNC machines and the forum, and how Peter and I met. So I think you'd enjoy that.
And we would have been among the first to have been on the to have brought the plans and met on the forum, and of course you weren't just buying the plans either. That was the thing about it. Anybody can sell plans, but what you also got was a community. Yes,
one of the most active and responsive communities that I'd ever had the pleasure of being a part of. It's, to some extent, it's still that way today. Many people have moved to Facebook, though, but you can still get an answer to a question on Joe's CNC forum, with very little hesitation, actually. Yeah, I used to spend hours and hours a day, just on the forum reading and answering and participating, because it was, a big part of my hobby.
Yes, I was the same. I'd come home every night and read up all the new comments and look through what people were doing, and because also it wasn't just about building. It was, now that you've got it built, what are you going to do next? What projects? And I learned so much from those guys who built their machines and a lot of their techniques for doing things. Mm-hmm. It's just really good. Which is, it's one thing to have the machine. You've still got to use it. You've got to know how to use it. You've got to use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very strange because when I built mine, other than the RC stuff, I had no idea what I wanted to make with it. And projects just kept popping up and, different things. You look at the world differently when you've got the ability to make almost anything. And, it's really quite, it's hard to describe, really. But I know that you are very prolific in the things that you do. You began sharing what you were doing outside of Joe's forum in other places. I saw you quite a bit in the Vectric forums.
Yes, that'd be right. I did spend a bit of time in the Vectric one. I barely visit there these days, but mm-hmm. In those days, and Vectric had the best software for the hobbyist. I spent a lot of time on their site as well, looking at what people were doing and, again, learning things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, you also are very prolific on YouTube. How did you get the YouTube bug?
Yeah, well, that was sort of somewhat accidental. I didn't start out thinking I'd start a YouTube channel. I think I just got one. I've always been interested in video to a certain extent. But it's only been in recent years that, of course, you could get cameras you could use for doing things like that. Back when I started, a video camera was a huge thing. You need a couple of pack horses to carry around with you. But once I got a little camera, I sort of started doing a couple of things, and I look back now on some of the original videos I made and thinking, oh, they're terrible. And but they were just for demonstration purposes. They weren't really for public consumption. They were just to sort of show something that I might have done or how I had something working. And I find it far easier to talk about it and show it than to try and type an hour-long message trying to explain it. A picture's worth 1,000 words, and a moving picture's worth even more. Mm-hmm. And, even the name was accidental, I picked the name of my channel, for those who don't know, as being CNCNutz, which is spelt with a Z at the end. And
that's a Z for all you American folks. Go ahead.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah.
And, I just sort of hiding my name and who I was, and just like uploaded a few pictures, and I posted them on the Joe's forum there. And then one day I thought I'll try a project, see if I can't do a decent job of putting together a video. And I think the first project I might have done with a view to posting it on YouTube as such was a heart-shaped box, which one of the other guys on the Joe's forum had originally made, Chris, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And I did that. And again, I was still only doing it for the users on the Joe CNC forum. I had no plans of making them public or anything of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw the first video of yours was 8 years ago. So you've been doing them for quite a while.
I was trying to work out how long I'd been doing it for. Yes, and I'd be probably one of the first YouTubers doing CNC stuff. I don't know. Again, I don't think it was that common back in those days, but it was really only in the last probably 4 or 5 years maybe that I've really sort of taken it, tried to produce content specifically for YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Well, the amazing thing when I look at it, I mean, some of the things that you tackled, initially you were doing projects for the Joes, like showing people how you cut out, new parts to replace old parts, or how to change the bearing in a router, or, things like that. Those were really valuable as far as, the amount of information, and nobody else was doing that at the time. It's pretty easy. You mentioned the ring box, a heart-shaped ring box that you did. From start to finish, that was an entire project. Nobody was doing that on YouTube. So, you're one of the pioneers.
Oh, well, thanks for that. Again, that router bearing replacement, I'd forgotten I'd done that, and then followed up shortly after by modifying the router to provide it new air cooling, because I don't know, in the likes of New Zealand and I believe Australia are the same, those routers that you guys just go down to the big box stores and purchase with the round bodies are not available in New Zealand. Mm-hmm. All our routers are plunge routers, so they've got the base arrangement. You can't hold them unless you come up with some sort of a special clamp to hold them. Australia's the same. They don't have the round bodied routers. If you want something with a round body, you're basically looking at a laminate trimmer. Mm-hmm. Which is what I started with. I started with a laminate trimmer, and then so the router I've been using up until just recently is probably almost 40 years old.
Wow!
So it had to be rebuilt, and metal fatigue destroyed the fan in it. So that's where I came up with the idea of adding computer fans on top to blow air through it. Making it looking a strange-looking beast. Mm-hmm. But again, if you think about what you've got and try and use what you have, then there's usually a way around it. Mm-hmm. That's where the fun is.
Yeah, I remember the video that really brought you to my attention as far as watching the videos and things that you put out was when you made your own bandsaw out of wood.
Yeah, I brought the plans off Matthias Wandel, mm-hmm. and I made the bandsaw. It was quite a good project. It was just made out of an old couple of old pallets, just made from pallet wood. Machined it all up and glued it together with several bottles of glue, and that was a good project. I've still got it in the workshop, and it works really well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw, you've had some pretty amazing responses on that video. In fact, you have 207,456 views on episode 27 of the first run of your bandsaw. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Well, I just connected up, put the blade on it, stood well back, and turned it on, basically. And I find that for the ones that are more woodworking orientated, and I think the reason that's got so many views is Matthias Wandel put that a link to that on his website, mm-hmm. and of course he's a big YouTuber, as you'd know. So I got get a bit of traffic for mm-hmm. that particular video, and then I did another one afterwards showing the completed bandsaw.
Yeah, for our listeners, I'll put a link to that episode of his videos and a few others inside of the show notes for this episode. The show notes are going to be at cncroutertips.com/50, which is the episode number. So if you just remember, this is the 50th episode, and you should be able to find that. But that's very cool. So you didn't really set out to become a YouTube superstar, but here you are.
I don't know about superstar, but no, I didn't. Like I said, it was accidental. I was making those videos and posting the links in the Joe's CNC forum, and I decided, I'll just make them public and see what happens. So I released a few and just made them public, mm-hmm. and people started liking them and watching them, so I kept making them. Mm-hmm. Even, like I said, I originally picked the name of CNCNutz, and then I started racking my brain, well, what should I call myself? And I needed something that sort of explained the channel a little bit and thing. And I think it might have been you at one stage suggested the New Zealand woodworker, because I was thinking of the new Yankee woodworker. And then I finally realized that sort of CNCNutz pretty much said it anyway.
Yeah, I think it's a great name for a channel. Yeah, that's the thing. When you first came out with that, you were one of the first people I saw that was really branding his channel and letting people know that this is your stuff. It's funny because you had been doing videos for a few years before you actually got in front of the camera.
Yes, you probably became quite intimate with my hands that probably didn't really sort of see the rest of me.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a couple of reasons for that.
Today's episode is sponsored by The Maker's Guide, creator of the Triple Edge Finder. Get the edge you need, save time and frustration on your CNC project, and make setup a snap. Save time and material. Set up your workpiece on your CNC router table faster than ever. Accurately set your Z-axis height first time, every time. Automatically locate the corner or edge of a workpiece. Reset your starting point in the middle of a program. Quality crafted right here in the USA on US-made CNC machines. Get the edge you need today. Go to www.themakersguide.com/edge. The Maker's Guide. Useful tools for makers.
You had been doing videos for a few years before you actually got in front of the camera.
Yes, you probably became quite intimate with my hands that probably didn't really sort of see the rest of me.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is, of course, when you start out, you're sort of camera shy and don't want to stand in front of the camera. But also the cameras in those days, you'd have to have it half a mile back from you to actually get everything in as well. Mm-hmm. And even these days, I've got a zoom lens and all the rest of it, but I sometimes find it quite hard to get myself in with what I'm doing. So it's a combination of things, but just finally deciding, well, look, I'm here, I'm talking, I'll show myself, I'll get in front of the camera and, because nobody really likes to watch a pair of moving hands.
No, and they do want to see you. I have, found that to be the case. I mean, I just view myself as some guy who's obsessed with CNC, not necessarily, a public figure, but people actually do want to get to see you, and it gives them a connection with you, I think, when you get in front of the camera.
Yeah, I agree. You need to talk. You need to. You don't want to be camera shy. Just get out there and do it. Have fun. That's my motto. Basically, just get out there and have fun. If you're not having fun, just don't do it. If it's a chore, it's just not worth doing. Just if you're enjoying it though, and I do enjoy doing it, then keep doing it.
So it's not a money thing for you. It's not I'll get rich being a YouTube content creator. That's not the driving force.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I'd starve and then some. I don't even think I could afford to starve. No, I basically don't make anything doing this. Yeah, it's certainly not for the money. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I for one am glad that you do it anyway. Whether it's beneficial to you as far as coin in your pocket or just getting it out there. I mean, I love watching your projects. You've done some amazing things and taught people the steps needed to do things. Like you just recently did a spindle control inside of. Installed a new spindle on your machine, and you took people through the steps and how you set up everything. So,
yeah, well, I found when I got the spindle, I came to set it up, and I thought, I'll just get on the internet and look up a video on how to do that. And there's just so many people showing videos of of their spindles, but I don't want to see their spindle turning. I know what it does. I want to know how. How did you get it to turn? What steps did you need to go through? And that's sort of where I started from. I had to go through and learn from scratch by reading different websites and trying to figure out how to do this, and then go through and do it myself and sort of explain to people how to do it.
Mm-hmm. So,
which is what people want.
I agree. I think that they want to see how it's done, and they want to know while they're in the process of doing something. A lot of times you get stuck, and finding somebody who has the knowledge. First off, finding somebody who even knows what a CNC machine is a challenge. But then to find out, how do you put an encoder on a stepper motor, or that sort of thing, it's difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And one of the things I did do is at the beginning of this year, I actually got myself a website, and with a view to adding more information to the videos that I make, so that in addition to the video, you get a little bit of a write-up about it, and perhaps anything I've missed off the video, or if there's plans or drawings for a particular build that I'm doing, I put it there. And the likes of that spindle install, I put all this. I wrote up all the settings I had and posted them on the video on the website for people to download, so that they could then look at theirs and compare it and work out what settings they actually need for theirs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great resource. What is the URL for that website?
It's www.cncnutz.com.
And that's spelled N-U-T-Z.
T-Z. Yep.
Okay. So, listeners, you'll do yourself a favor and go check that out, because it's a great resource to have available to you. It's CNCNutz.com. Okay. I'm curious about one thing, Peter. During all of this, you're very prolific. I mean, you've got 150 videos out on YouTube already. What was the real driving thought in your mind? Was it to get the information out there? I know for me it's a big thing to not take info to the grave. We had a lot of people in shops here that would retire, and then no one knew how to do what they do. Is that something that's driving you, or what is?
Not really. The information's freely available, and I just sort of do my little bit of research, or a lot of times I just sort of figure things out for myself, and I just tell people, there's nothing wrong with telling people how to do things, and it's more interesting. I prefer to teach somebody a technique of doing things rather than just showing them how I did this. If I simply just made a file, cut the thing out, and put it together, that's not very interesting. But if I can say, well, look, you can do this. So, for instance, when I did the Aztec calendar a few weeks ago, I showed something I learned quite a few years ago about checking the angle of your V-bit before cutting, especially a project that big, to make sure it's correct. And I included in that video that little bit of information on checking your V-bit angle, because it's important that you know how to do things. Rather than just being, you don't want to be spoon fed. You want to learn things as well.
Yeah, you did that over the course of several episodes, and it was quite a good-looking project. It's not just your average Aztec calendar. You did some techniques with the paint to get in the dark areas, and then your stain to wipe off. Talk about that for a second, if you would.
Yeah, well, again, I can't take any credit for that. It's a technique I learned from one of the guys on the Joe's forum. I remember seeing him do that, and I modified it a little bit this time because I was trying to do it quicker. But in this particular instance, if you haven't seen the video, I just sprayed it with a metallic copper-coloured paint, which basically got into everything, after having given it a coat of shellac to seal it, because it was cut from MDF, so it was all sealed with shellac, and then spray paint, copper colour. Once that had dried, I just got in there with a water-based black coloured paint. Basically just brushed it right in there and wiped off the surface with a damp cloth, so that I was only wiping off what was on the surface of the material of the calendar, rather than what was deep inside the V grooves. And it really brings that calendar to life when you do that.
Yeah, it's very good. I suggest you check out episode 49 and 149 and 150 on his YouTube channel. That's the CNCNutz YouTube channel. If you just search it, you'll be able to find it. Really great execution on that calendar. What's next for you?
That's a very good question. I like building things. Quite often I give away plans of things I've designed. I made that rotary axis for my machine, and came up with some plans for that and posted them. And yeah, I don't know, I just sort of go with the flow. If something strikes me as a good idea, I'll make a video on it. If I've got a project I need to get done, I'll make a video on it. The next one I actually have to do is go back over how I did those that V-bit testing, because I didn't really explain it very well on my previous video. But yeah, it's just whatever grabs my enthusiasm at the time, I'll make a video on it, basically.
Okay.
No great plan.
Now, in your day job with the phone system, you're constantly doing technical installs and that sort of thing. Is this the CNC total relaxation for you? Is that what you're shooting for?
Well, it's a hobby, yeah. It's certainly different from my day job, and yeah, it is quite a bit of relaxation. Mm-hmm. I get to make something, which is good. I enjoy making things.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious now if I asked this question of every one of the people that I interview, usually towards the end of the show, but you're kind of special.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that you have a really good answer for this, and if not, well, so be it. But if you could not fail, if everything was aligned so that you had success, you had all the materials you needed, all the financing, the space, everything is firing on all cylinders for you, you can't fail. What project do you work on, or what thing do you work on next?
That's interesting. I honestly wouldn't know. I could clean up my workshop for a start. That wouldn't go amiss. I've failed on that many times.
Me too.
I don't know if there's anything I really want to make, to be honest.
Really?
Or do. Yeah, I have no burning desire. I actually, maybe that's why I am special. I don't have any desires to go out and build anything. There's nothing. No, nothing I really want to do. I just sort of go with the flow. Something that interests me today may not interest me tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah,
That's
not the answer I was expecting, but that's okay. I when I think of the things that I want to do, there's a million of them. My problem is focus, because, I'm a little bit interested in everything, and I want to do a little bit of everything. And it's very hard for me to concentrate on one thing long enough to see it through. So, I don't know if you have that issue. I don't think so, because you seem to complete everything you start.
No, I don't know about that. No, I have quite a short attention span myself. Yeah, I suppose one thing I've always wanted to do, perhaps, is build an electric vehicle. Of course, I know now you can buy the things, but many years ago it was a bit of a dream to build something like that. But yeah, I know I'll never get around to I'll never get around to it. But yeah, no, I don't have any great ambitions in that nature.
Well, that's great. I knew that you had something in the back of your mind. You just needed a chance to think about it. What is it that you like about electric vehicles?
Well, their novelty, really. I like doing things that are different. So for a while there, I was into hydroponics, growing tomatoes in the glass house, which is strange because I don't even eat the things. I don't like them. But I like the hobby. I like doing things. I tried growing a whole range of different things hydroponically, and now my father does. He got all my gear, and I moved on to the CNC side of things, and I'm sort of exploring that now. And so far, it's kept my attention for more than 10 years. And hopefully it'll keep my attention for another 10.
Well, I do love the CNC stuff, and every time I think I've seen the end of it, or I've gotten to the end of the information superhighway on CNC, something new pops up, and that's just amazing to me, just how many things that are out there that people think of, and I look at some of the things that you made, like a laser shoe that you put on the bottom of your router that turned it into a laser engraver, and the rotary axis and all things, and I realized just how impressive a collection of things is that you've done.
Well, one of the things is, like I said again, it's something that grabbed my interest. That laser shoe, that was designed as a safety thing for the laser. I've seen so many people come along and they get a laser and they just bolt it onto the side of their Y carriage or their Z carriage, and I never liked that. To me, your eyes are pretty important, and I wanted a way to protect my eyes, to minimize any chance of accidentally blinding myself and those around me, as well as keep the smoke away from the material as it was burning. And so I sort of designed the laser shoe, and basically it's just for those who haven't seen it, it's just made out of MDF, and it just provides a large surface area over the work that you're doing, so that basically you really have to go out of your way to even get a glimpse of the laser beam itself. You got to get right down to the level of the material, because it only sits a few millimeters above the material that you're cutting. And then I realized that after cutting my first piece of wood with it, that it wasn't a bright idea to blow air onto my work to keep the smoke away from the laser. I'd be far better if I put some extraction system into it. So I built an extraction system to go with it, so that I could then suck that smoke away from the work area and just send it outside. and that works really well. You can now engrave something safely without having to put up with a workshop full of smoke. And while burning things like MDF and wood can be reasonably unpleasant, after a while, burning things like PVC can be almost deadly at times, because I believe some of the gases that come off that are quite nasty. Yeah. So the laser shoe was an interesting. It was a it was an interesting thing to try, and then after having managed to get it to burn some lines on some wood, which I was quite pleased about, we then moved on to, well, can we make it engrave photos? And I think quite a few people at that stage were surprised, that myself included, that it actually did such a good job for such a small laser. I mean, it's a 1.4 watt laser, which is quite small by comparison to the ones you get now. And it's been a great little laser attachment.
Yeah, and for folks who want to check that out, it is in episode 41 of CNCNutz YouTube channel. Just look that up. It's really a fascinating build. It's not that hard. Now that Peter figured it out for us, it's not that hard. But it was very ingenious. Very ingenious.
Yeah. And again, my contribution to that was only the shoe part of it, the extraction part of it. I don't take any credit for how the laser was set up. Other people have trailblazed that. I think they went on to pick and grave. The guys there, they did a lot of pioneering work on adding lasers to CNC machines and sharing it with the rest of us, so that we could all enjoy that.
One last question: who do you watch now? Who do you follow that is into the CNC? I watch Dave Gatton. I watch his CNC show with Dave, and I've appeared in a few of his episodes as a panelist. It's always interesting to sort of see what people are interested in, and one of the things I have to remind myself is, just because I know something doesn't mean you know it. I get questions on things. I think that make me think, oh, okay, I didn't explain that. I've made an assumption that these people know that, and there's a danger you cater to only those who already know things. You need to take it back a notch as well, and try and remember that not everybody knows everything. So I like watching Dave's live streams, and especially reading the comments as well that people put up. And I watch Mark Lindsay. He's done some videos there. I watched some of his last night, actually, on your Triple Edge Finder. Yeah. And I just watch a splattering here and there. I don't really sort of follow a lot of CNC things, strangely enough. But I just keep an eye out and see if there's a project that interests me. We've had Dave Gatton on the show, and it was well received, good episode. I enjoyed that. I got to meet both Dave and Mark Lindsay at a woodworking show in Atlanta recently, and that was kind of the highlight of my year so far.
Yeah, well, it'd be really good to meet up with some of the people that I've seen on YouTube, that'd be great. A lot of the people I follow are actually just plain woodworkers. The likes of Izzy Swan, Matthias Wandel, guys like that. April Wilkerson, quite enjoy some of her stuff. And I look at it and think, can I? What are they doing? Can I do that myself? Is that a job that the CNC machine can do, or not? And people also have to realise that the CNC machine is not the be-all and end-all of woodworking tools. It is just a tool.
Yeah, it's just one more tool in the quiver. Yeah, that's
right. Yeah, and sometimes the CNC machine is not the right tool for the job. So, I just keep an eye out and just sort of see what comes up.
Izzy was at the show as well. He really enjoyed. I had a nice long conversation with him over at. They had a get together at one of our other members' workshops, and I got to spend quite a bit of time talking with Izzy, and that was really nice. But Matthias is somebody I would love to meet. I've just never had the opportunity.
I'd like to meet Izzy as well. One of my other popular videos is actually the one of his wood clamps. I just after he started actually, he showed how to make toggle clamps. Not sure what episode that is, but you'll probably find it before I finish speaking. And so I contacted him and asked him, would he mind if I drew up the drawings for the toggle clamps and made a video of it and posted it? And he said, no, go ahead. So I did, and I sent him copies of the plans, and he sent a few people my way as well. And
Yeah, you're at episode 62.
Yep.
But yeah, they're pretty cool. I never thought about making my own toggle clamps, but if you want to do it, there's plans for it out there. Well,
and many people have mentioned, it's cheap enough to buy toggle clamps. Well, they're not in this country. They cost quite a bit, and but that's not the only reason you do it. You do it because you can. And that's sort of my philosophy. Okay, I can go out and buy this, that, or what have you. But, it doesn't mean I have to. I can make it myself as well. Why not? Like that spindle install, I showed several different methods of connecting control for the spindle. I'm not going to use them all. I just did it because I could. And... some people are interested in it, some people aren't. I'll choose the best method that suits me best, and other people can go ahead and do it the way that they like.
Well, I think we've given folks a little bit of a taste of what you're all about, Peter, and I really do appreciate you taking the time to come on CNC Router Tips and share your knowledge with our listeners.
Oh, that's no worries. Pleased to be here, and good to be celebrating your 50th episode of your podcast.
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
I am so grateful that you were able to do that, and I do appreciate it. Now, for those who are listening, we're going to celebrate. I hadn't announced this before. Now, we're going to celebrate the fact that we've had 50 episodes with a little giveaway. Recently, I had some CNC Router Tips ball caps made. And if you would like a chance at winning one of these 3 ball caps that we're going to give away, you can go to cncroutertips.com/50, which is this episode, the show notes for this episode, and there will be a form and a button where you can enter your email and be entered in the drawing, and I will pull the winners off on a live broadcast on Facebook, and we'll give away the 3 CNC Router Tips hats to 3 lucky winners. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of the CNC Router Tips Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Griggs, and I've been talking with Peter Passuello from Greymouth, New Zealand. Thank you for being on the show, Peter.
No worries, Bill. Anytime.
All right. I often mention many different types of software during the episodes and hardware and cutters, and it can get a little confusing. So what I did was I put together a page on my website, cncroutertips.com/resources. And on that page, I list all sorts of resources there, from books to tools to software, all the things that I use that make my CNC experience better and easier. And I hope you'll check it out. So again, it's cncroutertips.com/resources. Now, if you'd like to have your question featured on the air, here's how. Need help? Ask me about your CNC router question on my podcast, the CNC Router Tips Podcast. I'll be glad to help or try and get you the help you need. I want this podcast to be a fun and personal experience for everyone and helpful. So let's keep it real and ask sensible questions. Please use common sense and show courtesy to everyone. That way everybody wins. Here are some guidelines to ensure that your question is qualified to be featured on the show. Please keep your questions under 1 minute in length. If it goes a little over that, that's fine, but don't ramble. If you have a website and URL, you're allowed to share it, but only once during the recording. Spammy or disrespectful or deeply private questions will not be considered for the podcast. If you need to ask more than one question, just make each question a separate voicemail. Thank you, everyone. I'm Bill Griggs. Have a great day.